With any type of training program or any type of initiative you'd like to create. So we have Laura Meredith is on there to help me moderate, and I know we've got some folks in the out there listening, so I want to appreciate everybody for joining. You can welcome to use the chat. We'll take questions as we go through. I'll even stop a little bit and see if you have any questions. If you want to raise your hand and ask your question verbally, we can do that as well. So without further ado, let's get started and let's talk through this, shall we? So in order to truly make the change happen that you need to make with anything, with any initiative inside the organization, you have to do several things. You have to do them well, and you have to do them right. So the first thing you have to do is get organizational commitment. Now, what does that look like? Well, organizational commitment is the commitment you get from the senior management, from the organization as a whole. The managers and the leadership of the organization have got to be on board with the change you want to create. If they're going to look at the organizational commitment as this is just something we want to do, let me make sure everybody can hear me. Can everybody hear me out there? Okay, it looks like great. Okay. George, you can hear me. I appreciate that. I just got a chat saying somebody couldn't hear, and I was wondering if we weren't broadcasting right. Okay, thank you, Paula. You can hear. Everybody seems to be able to hear okay. So apparently John's having a problem, but we will work on that later. I'll see if we can't fix that in the background as we continue through this. So organizational commitment is truly about getting that organizational buy-in. Now, sometimes if the organization is only worried about the spreadsheet, this organizational commitment can be difficult. In fact, one of the questions we've got emailed in before we got started is, how do I get that? I'm a frontline supervisor. How do I get that organizational commitment? You know, and that's really a great question, because on the front line, you see things that need to be changed. You know things need to be changed, yet you often have to fight your managers, your leadership, to create the change you need to create. The first thing to get organizational commitment, if you don't already have it from the top down, to try to get it from the bottom up, is to put a business case together for this change that you believe and you know that you need. So the business case is, we need to change this way because of this. And we all know if leadership and management will not buy into the change will not be sustainable. And any time that's wasted training it, or any time that's wasted developing it, will be wasted. And that's really a sad situation, to have that wasted and have that effort wasted. And certainly in my career and working with customer service people, salespeople, in call centers, outside of call centers, I have seen a lot of time and effort, a lot of money wasted in initiatives that never really got off the ground. So we really have got to work to get this off the ground, and it takes an organizational commitment. If you don't have the leadership commitment and buy-in and expectation that this new way of doing things is important, then you're doomed for failure. It really won't work. Any initiative you try to launch will not work without that backing. Okay? So that's the first thing, is organizational commitment. So the next box after organizational commitment is kind of a due diligence box. All right, it's looking at the current state. Where are we now? What are we doing now? So we want to create a change. We want to create a change on how the customer experience is delivered. All right? We want to figure out how this is delivered. And so we want to look at the current state and we want to say, this is what's happening now. Only by knowing what's happening now can we determine what that new state needs to be. And we know that adult learners have got to leverage off what they know to create change down the road. So that's what we're after. We're after learning that. So then we will define the program outcomes. So we have our current state, and then we want to look at and define what are the outcomes we need from this program. So what is the experience we want to deliver to our customers? What is the experience the customers want to receive from us? Now realize when you look at that outcome, it is very important to realize your competition is not necessarily your competition in your market space. It's not another company like yours or direct competitors of yours. In the customer experience world, your competition is any customer experience. So if I have some type of online storefront, my competition is not necessarily Amazon. So I'm not selling books like Amazon sells books, but my competition can be Amazon because that is the experience customers expect, perhaps. So when you think about your competition, go beyond just your, what do people in our industry do? Realize that customers will compare their experience with you to their experience with other companies, not just your competitors. So we really want to define the outcomes we want. How do we want, what knowledge will our people need, and what behaviors will our people need? So we look at knowledge and behaviors. Those are two very important aspects. Many times, customers will focus on just the knowledge piece, thinking if I improve knowledge, that will improve performance and that will change behaviors. Unfortunately, that's not what we've seen. If you train the knowledge without training the behaviors on how to use that knowledge, often that knowledge doesn't get used in the way you want it used. So we want to define the program outcomes, both knowledge and behaviors. We want to look at system analysis and collaboration. Systems. The reason why is that systems are often built from the inside out. So we build a system that works well for our company that may be difficult for our customers to use. And I'll give you an example of that. Realize we know the outcome now we want. We know the outcome our customers want. One of the companies we worked with had a rebate process. You send in a UPC code, a barcode, and the original receipt, and they will send you your rebate, your refund. Well, what they did to take into consideration is that the actual box itself has 3 different barcodes on it. And so what was happening is people were sending in, 2/3, if you want to take the averages, were sending in the wrong barcodes. So we looked at the system of how the system was handling this type of process. And we realized that, well, 2/3 of the customers are sending in the wrong barcode and they're denying the rebate. They're denying that rebate coming in because they've sent in the wrong barcode. Well, it's taken 6 weeks to notify them they've sent in the wrong barcode, and now we've created a very poor customer experience. So we want to look at the process and the procedures and the system analysis as we go through this as well. We want to look at the collaboration between the different departments. One company we worked with had a marketing department that would go out and put marketing promotions out into the marketplace. Newspaper ads. The customer would call in saying, I want this promotion. The salesperson, the customer service person on the phone would say, "What, would you please read that to me?" So they didn't know what was being put out in the marketplace first. So the collaboration was very difficult between those departments. And that difficult in collaboration created a poor customer experience. So we want to look at that. As we're assembling all this, we have to also look at our internal communication about the program. How do we communicate this internally? How do we get individuals and the departments to start to buy in, to start to open up, to start realizing what's happening? So there has to be an internal communication process of how we're going to tell people what's coming. So it's kind of like the old adage of a speech. Tell them what you're going to tell them, and then tell them what you told them. Well, people need to be communicated to of what is new and how is this new thing going to be different. So we're going to create an internal focus. We have to change what happens internally, and we have to create some type of motivation. What's in it for me to do something different? Now, realizing sometimes we are changing behaviors that are, 10 years old, 20 years old, 20 minutes old if they're a new employee. But we're changing behaviors because we want something done different. We're back to that Einstein quote, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. So what we want to do is create that internal focus and that internal motivation that people have a reason. What's in it for them to learn something new? Now, often in our training, and you'll see that we have the Golden Touchpoint process map. In the Golden Touchpoint, we explain to and we work with the participants to say, these are communication skills you're learning that will help you in any goal you have in life, not just with that customer you're standing in front of or that customer that you're on the phone with. So we give them other reasons to learn and use this material, not just for the benefit of the company I'm working for, but as a personal benefit. So we get that out, and that's extremely important to get out. Next, we want to define sustainability, roles, and responsibilities. Sustainability happens on the front end, not on the back end. The sustainability effort will create on the back end, but you create the value of it and what happens on the front end. So that's what we're after. We're after creating that sustainability. We plan it on the launch. And so when you look at changing a program or bringing a program in, you have to really bring it in on the launch and set it up. Put all the seeds and all the possibilities up front to make it work so you can reap that sustainability on the back end. If you don't think about sustainability in the crafting and the launch of it, it will fail usually on the back end because it's not thought through enough. So we want to create the sustainability on the front side. So up to this point, we've got organizational commitment, and we've done all of this pre-work, all of this due diligence, if you will, to make sure that we're walking through and talking with the employees in a way that's going to help them. Now, you will notice with this due diligence, it's hard to have a one-size-fits-all program. That's because each company's DNA is different. Each call center, each store is different. So whether you're talking in person or you're talking, via the phone, chat, or email, or any way, it's different. So we have to customize based on this discovery. If you don't, what will happen is you will deliver a generic program that may have everything you need, but then you have to ask the participants to connect the dots. So you connect the dots from what you learned over here in our wonderful new program to what you do on the job. When you ask them to connect the dots, most people can't if that is going to mean change your behavior. Okay? So we've got to customize based on discovery, because the goal of any training, and we're talking about training here because we've got to change behavior, we're trying to orchestrate and engineer an outcome, so they have to be trained how to deliver that engineered outcome specifically the way the customer wants it and the way we want to deliver it. So we've got to create that customization based on that discovery. And in my career, and I've been training for probably 25 years or more, I have trained it wrong a lot of the time. I have trained the CAN program and expected behavior and performance to change and then watch it fail. And it wasn't until, a number of years ago that I made the connection that you have to customize it to get that change in behavior to create that engineered outcome that you want. So once you get that customization based on the discovery, you then can facilitate the change that you want. Now, facilitation often goes awry because of time. And let me explain when I say because of time. If anybody on this call has a question, please feel free to put it in the chat box, and Laura will pick it up and we'll answer it as we go through here. The facilitation of how we deliver this. So do you have a professional training group come and deliver it? Do you train the trainers inside the organization to deliver it? The important thing here is that the people who deliver it know how to deliver it in a way that creates a discovery method of learning, that adults can go, oh, I can do this. I'm already doing this. I just have to tweak it. They have to be skilled enough not just to present the material, but to tie the material into the behavior you want. So we'll talk about facilitation, and we'll facilitate it. So we go down below that first green bar, you will see 4 boxes. It says True Performance Coaching, Golden Touch Point, and then the coaching process and the True Performance Coaching there. So let me explain to you what those 4 boxes are and why it's important. So I want you to imagine that you are being coached in any sport you want to think of, soccer, basketball. But your coach doesn't know any more than you know about the sport. How effective can they coach you? Well, if the coach doesn't know what drills to put me through, if the coach doesn't know what's going to help make me a winner, if the coach doesn't understand the program or the rules any better than I do, how can they coach it? Well, that's the problem. So a lot of programs train the front line and say, front line, you do something different. They don't address the supervisors or the quality people or performance management issues. And so what happens is the front line gets new expectations. When they start behaving differently, there's no performance management, there's no coaching to support that. So soon, and very soon usually, it dies out and they go back to old habits. So the first step in creating any change that you want to create is you have to train the supervisors, the management, the quality folks, anybody who's going to measure the program. You have to train them in a different skill set. You have to train the coaches and the supervisors differently. They need leadership skills. They need skills that they can use to coach and mold and get the frontline performance where they need it to be. So the first thing we do is we train the coaches. We give them a performance coaching. And often we use True Performance Coaching, and that's an acronym that we use that we've put together. And True stands for timely. Is it timely? Is it when the behavior occurs? Because if you come to me 3 days from when I did something, I'm not going to remember whether I did it or not. So is it timely? Is it in the spot? Is it real? Can I apply it to a real life scenario? Not some, hypothetical. Hypotheticals are very dangerous in the coaching world because people cannot connect the dots. So it has to be real and not hypothetical. That's the same way with the facilitation of the training. It has to be real to the participants with that company's DNA wrapped around it. Is it unique? When we say is it unique, is it about a specific thing? Not, hey, you did a good job, or keep up the good work, or remember to focus on this. Generic coaching doesn't help you in performance. It's got to be unique about that unique situation, and you have to deliver it in an effective way. So if I said, look, I told you never to talk to a customer like that, don't ever do it again. Believe it or not, I've heard that type of coaching. Well, how effective is that? Well, it's real. I heard something. What did I hear? Unique. Well, it might have been timely. It might have been real, but it's not unique enough to help me. What am I supposed to do? Not what I'm not supposed. Well, don't ever do that again. Well, what does that mean? So what do you want me to do? So in True Performance Coaching, timely, real, unique, and effective, I'm going to tell you what you need to be doing versus just not what I don't want you to do. What do you want me to do? What do you want it to sound like? So that's what's important. So we want it unique and we want it effective. So often effective is that 2/3 sandwich. We give feedback kind of a like best. Next time what I like best is this. Next time why don't you try that and keep it up. And so we have a positive, the kind of the correction part we want to do, and then a positive on the end. Is it effective coaching? And so it has to be effective. It's got to be specific and unique, has to be real, and it has to be timely. So we train the skills around the program to coach and lead this program. Then we take and we train the front line employees on the program. Now, supervisors get a day or whatever it takes to train the coaching piece of this and the leadership piece of this. Then they are required to attend a frontline training piece. So the coaches will attend their own special training, and they will train the frontline training with the frontline people. Now, it's kind of amazing when we say this, and we've had coaches in front, well, I don't have time for that, I'm too busy. This is your job, and this is what's going to drive your performance, is your ability to coach it and understand it. When the coaches and the leaders and the supervisors are in that frontline training, the frontline people see that they're hearing the message at the same time, everybody's getting the message at the same time, and that's part of that sustainability that's going to be wrapped around there. So I'm going to teach you how to coach it, then I'm going to teach you what you're going to be coaching along with the frontline employees. Setting those new expectations make a difference. We will incorporate that into call quality sheets, into performance management stuff. Anything we can do to make it rich and real that employees need to change because they're going to be measured by it. You'll see measurement over on the right-hand side in the blue vertical. You'll see that coming up in a little bit, but we have to measure it, okay? So we do this. Now, you'll notice underneath those two boxes are online support modules. These are our training modules that we're training. So we have the online support modules. Well, what are those for? Well, let me explain to you why those are there. So we've trained the supervisors. We've trained the front line. Now they go out in the field and they start to practice this. Well, they're practicing it. They're having some success. They're having some difficulty applying certain things because they just, it's just not right. They just need that little extra push. The online support modules become the standard because, because we tend to cut corners. And think about when you were perhaps back in high school and you had to run around a field in physical education class. And the coach would say, run around the field. And the field would be square, and we would all cut the corner. We would round the corner. And the whole class would round the corner. And, well, I say the whole class. We would have some people that would run around the whole thing. Those fast folks, and we would call them certain names. Then one day, coach would come up and actually put a cone out there and say, run around the cone. And usually the class would complain, oh, come on, coach, what's the difference? It's only 3 feet. Well, it probably took me 30 years of my life to understand that 3 feet is literally the difference between mediocrity and excellence. So what we have to do is truly create excellence. And we've got to set that cone up. Well, the online support modules are the standard. It's what they learned in the training, but it upholds the standard so the training will not dilute it and cut the corner. And then you can test them on their knowledge of understanding the principles, which allow the coaches to coach it better. So we use online support modules as that cone to go around the corner, as that standard to refer back to, so it doesn't get diluted and it doesn't get rounded off where it becomes ineffective. So we use online support modules. We use those for, everybody needs to go on. The Golden Touch Point, we have 5 that they go back, they listen. They're about 5 to 7 minute modules, maybe 10 at the longest. And then they get tested on that. So they're tested so they know the concepts. Application is always different, but they know it. So those they can use. Now, they can also use the online support modules to support the new hire training, which we'll talk about in a little bit as well. So these are training existing people. We also have the new hires coming in. So once we get to the training and we get to the behavior and the procedures and all the new things we want to do, we will then move to the coaching side. So people know what to do. Now we just have to coach them. Okay? So now we're coaching. Now, I want you to imagine the coaching. The difference between a soccer or basketball and, say, gymnastics is soccer and basketball are played one team against another. The better team will win. But when you look at gymnastics or you look at ice skating, what you're going to find is they compare the skill set not to other gymnasts, but to a standard of how that should be done according to a standard? How straight should your legs to be? How pointed is your toes? How straight is your body? How straight are your arms? How are you doing the skill compared to perfection? Then they mark you off of perfection. So we want to make sure that we don't dilute this and start comparing people to people. We want to compare performance to the optimal, to the standard. So that's where the coaching comes in. So as soon as people come out of the class and come out of training, you've got to start coaching immediately because it's fresh in their mind. You've got to bring it up. It's repetitive. It's muscle memory. It's mental memory of how to respond in a certain way. And they have to be coached to do that. And the closer you can get the coaching to the training, the better and more effective it is. So that first box is Pretium coaching and collaboration. You need to have a coach who really understands what the standard is and coach to that standard and not let that corner get cut. So we coach that immediately following. And then as the Pretium coach, and we use an actual Pretium coach who really knows and understands the program, they have to turn that over for sustainability to the supervisors and the everyday coaches who are going to be in that company, in that job, coaching it. So that's the other two the other two brown boxes there. You can see the arrow goes back to the online support module. So we kind of take them through it. Remember what we did. Remember how we did it. And we keep working at refining and refining the skill set through that process. Wow. So if anybody has any questions, please type them in. If not, I will continue. I know what a DJ feels like. So I'll be glad to continue. So the support modules come in. Now, the blue boxes on the side are measurement, fulfill internal sustainability roles and responsibility, and ongoing coaching support. So let's talk through those. Measurements. We have found that when you go to change behavior, whatever was measuring the behavior before, that has to be changed. Whether that's performance management that's done annually or semi-annually, or whether that's a call quality sheet that's in a call center, whatever it is, we have to change it. So often we will change it to allow more discussion. You know, there's a school of thought in the call center world that the more you script, the more they will do exactly what you want them to do. And that's true, but is that really the outcome that you want? I was on a call once with a telecommunication company, and I called and asked for something they couldn't deliver on. So I was kind of frustrated. Well, no, we can't do that for you. Okay, so we get to the end. Have I answered and taken care of all your questions? I said, no, you can provide this for me. Well, I can't do that. And we went back through it all over again. At the end of that, they said, have I answered all your questions? And I said, no, you haven't. You still can't do this for me. And we went through the whole process again. And what I realized was, if I said no, they couldn't hang up for me. So their measurement mechanism said, if they say no, you can't hang up. But yet they couldn't give me what I wanted. And so often our measurements will put us in a situation to be artificial with our customers or to not be in alignment with what they want or how the call went. So we must make sure that the measurement supports the outcome that we want, not just the input that we want. And let me dig a little deeper into that measurement piece. As you look at the measurement piece, often we say, did they say the customer's name 3 times? Did they do this? Did they do that? Well, in our Golden Touchpoint training, we know customers want 3 things. We know they have a practical need they want met. We know they have an emotional need they want met because, well, most of our customers are human and we're emotional. Not all of them, I understand, but most of them are human. And so there's an emotional quotient, and they want you to be easy to do business with. They want an easy transaction. They don't want it to be difficult. And so are you measuring those things? Because if you're measuring the input, did you say their name 3 times? Did you brand the call right? Is that guaranteeing the output you want? And I suggest to you that it probably is not. It probably is not giving you the output that you want. So the measurement has to measure some input, but really you're after the output. Did they meet the practical need? Did they meet the emotional need? And was it a low-effort experience for the customer? And it's amazing when you start listening to calls and listening to conversations and watching interactions, you can really tell if we did those three things. We have to measure them the right way for that company, for that touch point in that interaction. The next, we have to fulfill the internal sustainability roles and responsibility. So coaches, are you coaching? One of the places we went into said, well, we can't coach employees every day. We don't have time for that. Your success depends on how your frontline employees perform, and yet you're telling me you cannot coach them every day. Well, no, we only coach them once a month. And come to find out, they were coaching them once a month. They would listen to a phone call. This was a call center. They would listen to a phone call, and they would hand a sheet saying, you didn't do this and this and this, and this is what you got on that call score. Well, that doesn't create sustainability, and that's certainly not the ongoing coaching and support in the third box there. So we have to fulfill what we planned on in that second box up there, in the current state box, in as we prepared the program. Are we following through? And in any sport with a ball, follow through is important. Baseball, you hit the ball, you follow through. Soccer, you kick the ball, your leg follows through if it's going to be a good kick. It's always follow through, and that's what we're measuring here. We're measuring the fulfillment of what we planned at the very launch of the program. And then ongoing coaching and support. Organizational support, HR support, operational support. Are we supporting this new behavior? As we push all this up, you'll see new hire training, which we really haven't talked about yet, and we really need to. So these are training. You know, we initially start out with who we have to train, right? We initially start out with those folks that are currently doing something that we want something different. Because we want a different outcome, we have to have a different input. We've got to train them on those new skills. The new people coming in that are trained the right way usually don't have to unlearn bad habits, don't have to learn, old ways of doing things. So we can train them right coming in. We can give them the online support modules, but we have to work that in. So the facilitation must be from somebody who really knows what's going on, who really understands the principles and the underlying meaning and how to get to that output that we're trying to get. So then we add new hire training on there, and when you put this whole piece together, we actually get everything that we need to get from this. We get all of the components to create the organizational change and the performance change, the performance uplift. Now, where we've been able to do this, we have seen an increase with our program, and it's still alive. It's amazing. It's 6 months old, and we're talking to some of the key people in the areas that we worked with them in, and it's still alive and well. They're still using it. They're still talking about it. That is the sign of a sustained program. We're still seeing people go online and take the modules. They're using it as a coaching. Go back and take this module on how to set an agenda. Go back and take this module on how to do this specific thing. And so they're using the online support modules as that standard to go back to remind you, to refresh you as you continue on. So with this process map, and hopefully we've been able to bring this process map alive for people on the call today, is that it's really about getting all the components to guarantee your success. If any of these components are missing, you're going to lower your possibility and lower your degree of success. And that's just too great of a risk. We spend too much money. I know when I was in charge of training at a call center, when I first joined, we would train a program to 400 agents. And then somebody would make a really quick change, have to go back and retrain that same form a second time in a matter of 2 or 3 weeks because a major change was made. And I see this type of money wasted over and over again. And I see the agents get frustrated with, can't they get it right? And I see it create all the internal and external havoc. And it doesn't have to be that way. And this is a process map that can take that guesswork and take that that trial and error and that we have to do it again out of it. And hopefully it will give those of you and on the call today kind of a third-party reference saying, look, if we want to make this change, and this is how to change anything you want to change, we need your commitment. Without it, it won't work. In fact, not only without it, but you realize it's on top. I can do all the work under the bottom. If I don't get the top right, it's not going to work. So it gives you a reason to get that organizational commitment. It gives you a conversation to have about it, saying it's a key ingredient. And all of these truly are the key ingredients to make sustainability and culture change and performance improvement happen in an organization. You know, we're about 40 minutes into this, and I would like to open it up for any questions anybody has. Laura, I mean, are there any other questions that are coming in from out there? I haven't really been paying attention to the chat.
I haven't had any questions from the chat at the moment.
Okay. All right.
What about the email questions that you had ahead of time, Jack?
You know, I kind of addressed the one about the organizational commitment because that is a big one. You know, the second one is the coaching time. I'm glad you mentioned that. The second was, well, how do we schedule the time for coaching? We've got so much other things to do. We're pulling reports for this. We're pulling reports for that. How do we schedule time for the coaching? And you know what? What I have found is it's really about habit. Once we skip a coaching session or two and we don't sit down side by side with our reps and our responsibilities, we tend to start forgetting it. And it's a new habit. I have to listen to the calls and I have to coach. Well, when you look at a gymnast and you look at a gymnastics coach, they stand there and they coach, no, point, you know, do it again and do it this. They add one or two little elements. Not, you need to correct these 7 things, now try it again. That's not effective coaching. You've got to connect and little elements, connect them all together to create a large performance difference. And so if you don't have time to coach the little things, you won't get to the big things, and it won't happen. And then so we get drive-by coaching when that occurs. And that is, look, here's your sheet, here's what you did wrong, do it better next time, bye. That's a drive-by coach. You know, I can't buy, I coached them. You know, good coaching says I listen to the call myself. I point out what I need to do different. I practice what I need to do different, and then I go out and apply it. And you have to have those elements of coaching to make it work. If you're not willing to invest the time in coaching, then you're really going to waste the time and money of trying something new. So those are critical aspects as well. Be specific on what you're coaching. That's why any program that's launched, the supervisors need a more in-depth view of it and a more in-depth understanding of it, so they have a more in-depth view of how to coach it when it hits the floor. If you ignore that supervisor's piece, then you're going to sincerely hamper your ability to create performance change on the back end. Okay? Anything else?
The last question I have, Jack, that's come in when reviewing the emails is there a different approach that you see when you're looking at the current state of when you're reviewing, say customer experience in a call center environment versus in a face-to-face interaction environment, say in a banking environment or a retail environment? Is there any different approach and methodology or coaching or sustainability of the program that you would take?
Yeah,
so that it came from email.
Right. Yeah, there is. And that's, you know, that's good perception because you're going to use different skill sets. Go into a bank, and we'll use the banking example, and you go through a drive-through. And often you put your things into a thing, and now you can't even see people anymore, but you put your thing in the tube, you send it in, and they do something with it. Often I've had a transaction that people don't even look up and look out at you. Or you walk to a teller at a bank, and the teller doesn't even look up at you. You hand them a document, they read the document, they push the things back, and they never look at what it is. And I was talking to some people the other day, and they were doing they did a study for salespeople, and it was funny because the salespeople could tell you the colors of people's shoes more than they could tell you the color of people's eyes. So where does that say they're looking? Well, they're not looking at people in the eye. They're not looking at people, not standing straight. So when you look at current state, when you look at the current touch point, you're looking at the current state of each touch point. So a online touch point of how I interact with your website, how I interact with your store, your online store, how my people are interacting with you. You know, how a print ad interacts with you. Am I getting the behaviors from that print ad that I want? So when we look at current state, we're looking at each individual touch point and what is it we would like to engineer with this touch point, and are we delivering what we would like to engineer? So we're going to look at different things under different touch points because each touch point will have a different element. For instance, if I call into a call center, I might get an IVR, an interactive voice response, that I've had to go through several prompts in order to get to you. When you answer the phone, I've put my account number in twice. You ask me what my account number is. Well, is that really what we want? Well, that's a policy and procedure issue. Okay, is it really what we want? Is that the right outcome? And so we want to look at outcomes. I'll give you another quick example. I did some work with an audit team of a telecommunications company. And this audit team of the telecommunication company, they would walk into an apartment complex or subdivision, and they would see unauthorized taps. This would be a Radio Shack line and connector hooking somebody's house up for cable. They would pound on the door. They would say, I'm here with this cable company. You have an unauthorized tap coming to your home, and I'm here to disconnect it unless you want to become a customer. Well, it was creating all types of defensive mechanisms from the customer. We changed it very simply to knock on the door, say, I'm here with this telecommunications company. We should have disconnected this cable. Hopefully you've been enjoying cable. It looks like we should have disconnected this some time ago. We didn't. Have you been enjoying cable up till now? And the surprised looks, these people know they're stealing cable, yet they're being told this. They go, well, yeah. When they say they enjoy cable and you're taking the responsibility for it, you say, look, I'd like to turn you into a customer now. I'll put a new line in. I'll make sure everything's really, strong signals for you that's going to work great. And I'll be glad to take care of that for you. Defensiveness went down, sales went up, conversions went up, and it made a huge difference. Well, that's our combination, our behavior and what we say, and that's a face-to-face example. So we really have got to get it right, and that due diligence is really looking at all of those to making sure that it's right. Any other questions? Well, I'm respectful for everybody's time. I would like to thank all of you for attending it, and we will have this up on our website for further viewing and further listening to, I guess. And hopefully all of you can join us again at a later date for another one of our webinars. I want to thank everybody very much and make it a great day. From Pretium Solutions, bye for now.